Okay. Well, I've got nothing totally planned here for this one. I just have some ideas I want to talk about, some higher ideas, some concepts of reality that I think will help to shift your understanding a little bit of our reality. And that's what's really big for us is we are the creators of our own reality. And as the creators of our own reality, we have to understand how it works to a degree so that we can let go of things that no longer serve us. It's really all about letting go of things that no longer serve us so that we can be more of ourselves, so that we can be more present, so that we can let go of the past and the stories, so we can be who we want to be today, right now. Because that is the only time that actually exists, and I suppose we'll start there. The only time that exists ever is right now, the present moment. That's it. The past isn't here. The future isn't here. Tomorrow never comes. It just becomes today. It becomes the present moment. In eternity, there is no time. Time doesn't exist. Instead, it is just the present moment. And it feels like it's the present moment over and over and over again. But technically, it's one moment. And everything that's happening, past, present, and future, are all happening simultaneously, all at the same time. And so, moment is it's just like that's what it is. So the present moment is so infinitely small that as soon as you begin to measure it, it's gone and a new one has began. And yet it's all the same. It's all the same. That's why the one thing, God, source, all that is, the one thing that exists, that is all of existence, that is experiencing everything, is just experiencing all of it in one moment. And yet somehow, through this amazing design, we are able to experience that one moment as what appears to be a linear progression, right? Now let's take that one step further. Not only is the past, present, and future all happening at the same time, but there is an infinite number of parallel realities of you happening at all times. So there are versions of you that experienced an entirely different life, an entirely different reality, an entirely different society, an entirely different everything. And it's all happening at the same time. Your past selves, your past lives are happening right now. Your future self, your future lives are happening right now. In fact, your higher self exists right now as what appears to be our future self, but really it's more like the completed version that exists outside of space-time. So outside of time is this already all-knowing version of you that knows you perfectly, knows and loves you compassionately, perfectly, and is so grateful for all the experiences it's been through. It has set up a beautiful, if you really learn who you are and why you're here and commit to becoming authentic and healed and loving yourself, commit to your highest timeline that you could live in this incarnation, you'll be guided by your higher self and your spirit guides to live that life. You will. All you have to do is learn who you are, remember who you are, and heal and try to and commit to becoming your authentic self, to letting go of all the old stuff that you were taught, the expectations, how the world works, all this stuff. It's all part of this game we're playing, basically. I know most of us don't, take it a lot more seriously because we've had so much pain, so much suffering. But truly, when you go through all that suffering and then you remember who you are and you look back and you're like, wow, I'm an eternal spiritual being having a human experience. And suddenly, and then you realize I was here to learn things, and you start to see the patterns of, like, oh, this relationship didn't work because of this, and then the next relationship didn't work because of this, the same thing, and then the next one didn't work because of the same thing. And it's like you feel like you keep attracting the same people because you keep looking at them as the problem. You don't realize that the lesson for you to learn was whatever that thing was that was trying to teach you. And when you learn it, suddenly you upgrade, you level up. We're here for soul growth. We're here to learn specific lessons that our higher self has planned for us that are perfect for what we need to learn right now. But the beautiful thing is not just are the lessons planned, but the awesome moments, the beautiful moments, the leveling up, as it were, is all planned as well. So if you just keep the focus of learning from things that don't seem to go your way, or that bug you, that annoy you, that trigger you, if you'll just commit to learning from those things instead of viewing them as bad, instead of viewing them as failures, instead, what perspective can you use, can you utilize, can you take on to say, oh, this thing that happened wasn't so bad because I learned this from it. And that was a really good lesson. I grew wiser. I grew more experienced. And that's what we're here to do. And here's the thing, as you grow more, you gain more experience. As you grow wiser, right? Because you're not only just letting life happen to you, instead, you understand that life is happening for you. That's the big shift, is happening to you to happening for you. Realize that this isn't some big thing to make you suffer. Our suffering is part of the evolution of our consciousness, the part of the soul's journey that it came here to experience. We came here and we forgot who we were so we could have this experience of waking up and remembering. And when you start to realize that your life has gone in cycles and patterns and different seasons for different things, and that there was always underlying lessons that you could have learned, suddenly you're like, whoa, this isn't all random. It all matters. The reason things keep happening that I don't like is just because I didn't get the message. And I don't need to feel bad about that. I didn't know. And part of going through that process, part of going through the suffering, is to help you wake up. And when you wake up, you can start to do real internal work, real healing work, the work on this planet that really matters. Isn't achieving something, isn't making money, isn't having the perfect life and all this stuff, whatever you think that might look like. It is about healing. It's about becoming whole. It's about knowing yourself so well that you can trust yourself in any situation. You can trust that you'll always be able to find the positive, loving perspective, the best perspective for you at any given moment. And I found recently in my own life that as I have worked on myself pretty heavily for the past year or so, that as I level up, as I learn lessons, life just gets better, better and better and better. And my suffering gets less and less. And I start to notice when new patterns are starting, and I'm able to uh, I'm able to just tell myself things like, oh, okay, I can see the bigger picture here. I can see why this is happening. And even though I still have to feel those emotions and things that go with it, right? I still have to feel the things. I'm not in my head making it seem like it's so much worse, because that's what the vast majority of our suffering, if not all the suffering that we experience, is psychological. It's the extra, you know? Yeah, there's still pain. Yeah, there's still emotions that don't feel so great, right? But what do we do when we're feeling that way? When we're feeling in pain, when we're feeling bad? We're in our heads and we make it worse. But if you know that all thoughts are just programming in the mind, and the mind is the thinker, and you're the observer of the thinker, you're the observer of the mind, you're the observer of your body. If you know that, and you know that you are the eternal spiritual awareness, the soul experiencing that, then it takes away the personal, feeling like, woe is me. You don't need to self-pity. Instead, you can be that awareness, that observer, and you can tell yourself the loving truth. Instead of letting your mind run rampant when you're feeling bad, when you're feeling sad or angry or fearful or shameful or guilty or any of these things, if you're feeling dread, whatever it is, instead of letting your mind, and your mind is just going to connect with whatever frequency you're at. Your emotions exist at different frequencies. The lower negative emotions are down here, the higher ones up here, right? And the higher ones are, of course, like peace, love, joy, reason, just being happy, And, but yeah, your mind will just connect with whatever frequency you're putting out. So if you're feeling bad, the mind starts to connect feeling bad with what thoughts are programmed with feeling bad from past experiences, or what appears to be past experiences to the mind. And so your mind, the ego identity, will start to say, like, if you're feeling depressed, you'll be like, oh, my life sucks. I feel bad. I don't like myself very much. And I hate feeling this way. I hate this. And that's just feeding the negative feeling. That's suffering. That is suffering. That is hell, if you will. When you're feeling bad and you just pile on yourself. But instead, if you recognize what's going on within you, you realize, oh, I'm feeling a bit down today. Okay. Instead of letting my mind run rampant, when it starts to have negative thoughts, I begin to notice them. And as I notice them and observe them, they almost lose their power, They do lose their power. And instead, what I can start to do after that is just to tell myself the loving truth. Be like, Brian, it's okay. I love you. You are worthy. You are enough. The only thing your emotions are asking from you is to feel them. That's it. That's it. We are just processing them. Because this is now a new opportunity to feel something that I felt a lot in my life. We'll just go with depression. I felt depression so much in my adult life. And I've dealt with it. And for a long time, I dealt with it very poorly. I would just add on to it, and it would get worse and worse and worse until, I got to such terrible places where I was like trapped in my body, and I would self-sabotage all the time, and I felt like this tremendous burden. That was all psychological suffering. I created that. I created that without realizing it. And how did I create it? I created it by thinking these horrible thoughts, allowing the mind to just think these horrible thoughts and thinking that was me, thinking that was truth. And not knowing how to distinguish between what I know to be true and what the mind is programmed to think. So the mind would just make it worse and worse and worse until I believed it. My subconscious believed it so just totally and completely believed it. And so that's what my life then became. And I lived at this very low place, and I would basically oscillate between like high anxiety, low depression, high anxiety, low depression. But I was always in this small range of frequencies that were never good, never felt good. The best I ever felt was maybe like neutral. When I was, in a lot of pain, I was on, mentally and physically, I was on like antidepressants and painkillers, and I was taking my painkillers faster than I should have, because I was just trying to feel good. I was just trying to feel something that wasn't bad, because I was at such a negative place, and I had no regulation of my nervous system, of my hormones. Like everything was out of whack. When I wasn't taking painkillers, I was drinking and smoking and just like anything I could to not feel the way I felt, because I had grown to hate myself. I had taught my subconscious to hate myself. And how fucked up is that? Whether I'm an eternal spiritual being or this is my one and only chance at life, either way, it's not worth it to hate yourself, to hate your life. This is who you are. This is who I am. I have to accept that, and not only accept that, but then learn to love it. Because what's the point of being here for X amount of years and not liking yourself? The one thing you cannot change, or one of the things you cannot change, is who you are in this life. As far as I am experiencing Brian Edward Neal. I am, a certain height, a certain ethnicity, a certain, I look a certain way, I am a certain way. What I can change is my vibration. I can change my mind. And as I start to create my own thoughts with intention, I speak to myself intentionally, purposely, with the intention and the purpose of loving myself. And suddenly I go from this place of, well, it wasn't sudden, but over time, I went from this place of really not liking myself at all, just hating myself, and thus not liking the world and not really caring about anything else, just feeling bad all the time. And through thought alone, I stopped the negative momentum of those negative thoughts, because I stopped letting myself have them. I kept catching myself over and over and over again, and then telling myself something loving and positive instead of that negative stuff. And slowly I reprogrammed my subconscious to be more loving, to understand that even when I'm feeling bad, I can still love myself, right? And through that process, I actually started to love myself and feel it and be able to mean it even more. So now I've gone from this place of, high anxiety and low depression, high anxiety, low depression, and I went to this more neutral place, right? And I was there for several months at the, kind of early on in this year. I was at this part where I was very inconsistent with my emotions. I had a lot of stuff to release, a lot of grief, a lot of anger, heartbreak, all these different things that had happened throughout my life that I didn't allow myself to feel, and that my subconscious was programmed to bring up so that I could heal it. And so I went from that low place to a more neutral place. And in there, I just kept doing the same thing. Whenever I didn't feel so great, I told myself loving things. And then when I was feeling pretty good, I was able to do some stuff. I was able to get some movement in. I was able to get some stuff done. I was able to be productive. I was able to feel a little happier. And then and then there were a lot of times where I was just like, meh, like I don't feel anything. I feel bleh. But that was better than the constant cycle of anxiety and depression and feeling just like a burden, feeling awful about myself. And then after a few months in that kind of like gray area in the middle, I got to a peaceful place. I found inner peace. And I was like, oh, this is new. This is different. And the whole time I was being guided, I could tell. I mean, I was getting signs all the time, synchronicities, which are just coincidences that you notice very often, and they're not coincidences at all. They're messages from your guides, from your higher self. Like, hey, you're on the right path, keep going. It's encouragement. It's encouraging. You're like, whoa, how come I've seen the number 422? That was a big one for me. I've seen the number 422, like, I see it all the time, It's like, that's an angel number, and I looked it up, and it has a lot of connection to my purpose and what I'm going to be doing, serving and stuff like that. So I'm excited about that, and that was an exciting message to get over and over and over again until I got the message. It's and I still see that number all the time. But no, so I went from this, eventually I found this inner peace, and I was like, you know what? I am content. For the first time in a long time, I'm not fighting with myself. I'm not fighting with my mind, with my ego. Now I'm at a place of peace. And I'm like, whoa, okay, now from here, I have the chance to choose which path I go down. I could always go back into negativity. I could always go back down that path. But you know what? I tried that path. Wasn't too much fun, So now I'm going to go back to being who I really am, who I was growing up. And when I was young, when I was a child and a young teenager and stuff, I was so positive and loving and just like innocent and happy. And I was like, that is who I am. That's who I want to be. That's always who I've wanted to be. And I think at the core, all of us want to be more childlike. We want to have fun. We don't want to be children. We want to be adults. But we want to have that freedom to express ourselves, to be ourselves. And as long as we're stuck in psychological suffering and thinking that the world is so stressful and everything's bad and we're always focused on the negative because, oh my God, what if this happens? What's the worst case scenario? Like, why even fucking ponder that shit? We live in a universe where like attracts like. The law of attraction is a universal law. And a lot of people have made the mistake over the years that you attract what you want. Like how you manifest is you just put your focus on what you want and you just say, I want this. And, but really you attract what you are. And it's based on your frequency. If you're always at this low place, you're never going to attract something that's up here that you want. If you want, if you need to upgrade your home, you need a nicer home because, your family's growing and you guys need a better place. If you stay down here and you're like, oh, how am I going to do this? I'm so worried. I'm so stressed. I'll never do this. This will never happen. Then it's not going to fucking happen. Or you're just going to suffer a lot on the way there, But up here, if you can say, you know what? This is a need. The universe has always provided what I needed. And how do I know that? Because I'm here. Because I exist. Because, just existence itself is being like, wow, the universe provides. Like, I get to exist. That's pretty cool. And I get to exist in a perfect universe where I get autonomy. I get freedom. I freely chose to come here. But you need, so you need a new house or you need, a new car or whatever. That's attracting that is going to be up here. It's going to be at a higher vibration. So what you need to do is let go of the worries and the stresses. Don't worry about how it's going to happen. What you need to worry about is your internal state. If you want to get from here to here, there are things you need to learn. There is tried and true wisdom out there for you to learn so that you can learn to let go of these worries and these stresses and these things that bring you down. Because ultimately, there is no long-term benefit. There's really no benefit at all to focusing on fear and negativity. There's just not. You know, it'll never help you. In fact, if you're just always putting your focus on that and then you're feeling the effects of that, keeping your attention and focus there, meaning you're putting your thoughts and your focus on issues and problems and feeling bad about, and then you start to feel bad about them because you're putting your focus on it, you're lowering your vibration. But if you could put your focus on something that makes you happy, or change your perspective on something that was making you feel low, and you can get to a more neutral place at least, or if you're very fortunate in that situation to get to a more loving and positive place, you can raise your vibration just by shifting your perspective. And that's really the truth. Your perspective is the most powerful thing you can control in any situation. Instead of allowing things to just cause you to act unconsciously out of habit, right? Instead of just getting triggered by the same thing over and over again, start to notice when you're triggered and be like, why do I feel triggered by this? What's the point of this? You know, what is this coming from? And start to explore that. And eventually you may realize that it might come from some limiting belief or some past experience that you viewed this way and never really processed and integrated in a healthy way. Because the healthy way of processing anything that has ever happened to you is finding the loving, understanding, more positive perspective. I know some things happen that are really tragic in this world. It may be very difficult to get to a loving place with those things, but the work to get there is so worth it, because just because something happened in the past, or what appears to be the past to you, you can let that go. You can let that go, because realize that we are constantly shifting between different frequencies, different timelines, different parallel realities. We are constantly shifting. In fact, there's a channeler named Bashar. The channeler's name is Daryl Anka, and he channels the entity known as Bashar, who's actually a future human. And he provides information on how our reality works and what we're going through as a species and all that. And basically what he said is, like, billions of times per second you are shifting between frequencies, realities, timelines. You don't notice it. You don't have to try and do it. It's just part of this experience. It's part of who you are. Every single being here is constantly shifting. So the thing that happened in the past that you struggled to get over, that feels so horrible and wrong, and you feel like you've been wronged, and or maybe you hurt someone and you just can't let it go, you can't forgive yourself, realize that version of you isn't really even you anymore. It's just a memory for you to learn from. It's just a lesson. As hard as it may have been, as tragic as it may have been, you can learn to let it go. You can learn to see it from a higher perspective. But as long as you're staying down here at a lower vibration, feeling bad about yourself, you'll never see the solution. You have to learn how to get up here, and that takes work. And that's the real work that we're here to do. That's what your soul wants you to do. Your heart wants you to do. And if you can commit to that and find a way to reconcile all these old parts of yourself, all this old programming, all this stuff that isn't happening now, but you're allowing it to affect who you are now. If you can find a way to reflect on those things in a more loving and compassionate and understanding way, then you can completely change who you are today, and you can learn to let those things go. If you can accept that something happened, you can forgive it. And if you can forgive it, you can let it go. And if you let it go, then it no longer has any power over you, and you're free from it. And that's what healing looks like. So, we kind of bounced around, and I don't know, I thought it was pretty good. We'll see. What do you think, Brian? Feel good? Yeah, I feel pretty good. All right, so thank you guys for watching. Love you all unconditionally, and I hope you have a great day. All right, bye.